This resolution.
Are you okay if I keep this here?
Y'all are next, right?
Yeah.
This resolution.
Wait, it's not a smart. Wait. Oh. No. What?
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Okay, we're good. No, we're good. It's fine. Our last room, they wrote a bunch of stuff.
Did you just move the water bottle?
Yeah. Also, can I turn the brightness down on the recording? Oh, yeah. I don't know how to spell hydraulic. Okay,
You okay if I sit here or you want me to come back?
Oh, that's fine. I don't think you're going to be able to get back here.
Okay.
I
feel a little bit. I have to come back. I'm going to go back.
If there's a fire.
All the judges should be together.
If you want to, you can sit.
I was sitting there. Yeah. See, I figured it out.
Like all.
You got it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
See, that row, that aisle was black. You know what I did?
Does anyone have any paper that I can use?
Yeah.
Choice. If the brightness like goes up randomly, like just that's the key. Just like oh yeah, you know, like just in case.
Yeah, sure. Can someone just give me a signal if the brightness is too high?
Okay. Or I'll just do this.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, also, I need to do this. I can't find my red G2 because I don't have that.
I'll give you one.
It's kind of essential. So, if it's all black, I'm just going to use it.
Do you do sevens or fives?
5. So I would do read my left-handed, so like 3-handed jams. So that actually would be. Oh, that's fine. It's not a big deal.
Just keep it. It's gonna jam anyway.
No,
You should ban
it's really not that.
fracturing. Fracturing. I think that is the specific wording. Yeah, fracturing. Okay, is everyone ready?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, awesome. The United States federal government should ban hydraulic fracturing. Let's go for cost observation. The definitions of hydraulic fracturing is basically when rock is fractured and pressurized to release the liquid that is from underneath. This includes things like petroleum, brine flow, natural gas. The second observation is the policy round because the word should implies cost actually evaluate through net benefits. Third observation is our plan text. The United States federal government will ban hydraulic fracturing. It's going to happen as soon as possible and all for normal means. The first advantage is about the environment. In the uniqueness, first of all, the transition to green energy is not happening fast enough. The A argument is that even though that it's becoming cheaper and cheaper within the next couple of years, clean energy wire estimates that 75% of the oil and fossil fuel companies are still being subsidized by the United States federal government. The B argument is that legislation in specific states, such as Florida, Mexico, and New York City, are not supporting the eradication, are having a hard time passing legislation that are going to be supporting cleaner energy. But the second argument is that we are in an environmental brink right now. The A argument is that fracturing, this specific type of technology, is releasing method that is 25 times stronger than CO2 in trapping heat, which prolongs the effects of decreasing greenhouse gases by 2030. The B argument is that the IPC report predicts that we have until 2025 to reverse these effects. So 2030 will be too late for us to actually save the economy, which means that methane is the number one indicator, or the number one thing that is actually predicting the amount of environmental loss right now. It links that first of all, we're able to ban hydraulic fracturing, which is solves for the environment. There are a couple of warrants. The A argument is that we decrease the amount of air pollution. What's happening is that according to the Weld County gas wells, they've basically been producing carbon emissions that are 1 to 3 billion cars, which probably means that according to the geoscientific and education studies, that if we were able to decrease, to stop fracturing altogether, we would make up for the amount of air pollution that's causing a whole bunch of global warming right now. The B argument is that we would decrease the structural impact of earthquakes. You can see that the areas in which there are wells are 20 to 40% more likely in fracturing sites that are they're disproportionately affecting people of color in these particular communities because they are the ones that their environment is not really being protected right now. Yes, question.
So what about the fracking process increases the propensity for an earthquake? Do you know specifically?
I said it increases the propensity by 20 to 40% over like decades long because you're literally pressurizing the liquid in the rock, which makes the fault super fragile and more likely to move. The C argument, this solves for a lot of runoff that is happening. For example, silica runoff was found in 31% of the 11 sites over the United States. And this is the number one thing that is able to permeate through crops everywhere. So the number one cause of marine and freshwater biodiversity collapse, and specifically what's happening when you are fracturing the rock. The second link is that we're able to prevent health and quality of life impacts. The A argument is that water in wells are specifically 17 times more potent in methane near hydrofracking sites, according to a study by Duke University, which means that a lot of individuals who are living near this area are basically intaking toxic chemicals. But the B argument is that in Ohio and Oklahoma and all the Midwestern states specifically, childhood asthma rates are 200% higher in these particular areas than they are in cleaner areas, which means that we are the only team that's going to be solving the health impacts. First of all, we're able to save the environment. The A implication is that we are key to protecting biodiversity. Around 200,000 species are at risk of collapsing the entirety of the biodiversity collapse, and this will lead to mass extinction. The last 5 mass extinctions were due to a biodiversity collapse, so we are on a brink right now. But the B argument is that this is key to reducing things like structural racism, especially when the majority of marginalized communities and people of color are living near these areas in which they are contaminated by the waterways. This C argument is that we're key to reducing health. The number one indicators of people having respiratory diseases are because of air pollution, are because of the increase in climate change arguments, so we would be able necessarily to protect people. Yeah. Oh yeah, greenhouse gases also cause warming. You can see here that at the point where air pollution is the number one leading cause of the Earth going hotter and hotter, that probably means that we can solve for the positive Oh yeah, this also has an impact to climate refugees, especially when there's an increase in the amount of water rises of coastal climate change. We can see approximately 200 million people having to move inland, which means that we're creating an environment in which coastal refugees are going to have to exist. The second argument is about the economy. What's happening in status quo is that the economic investment is low in the green energy sector. Companies are expecting to transition to green energy, but the politics are preventing that type of transition. The A argument is that specifically in New Mexico, the oil industry was hit with a proposal to freeze fracking permits on 2023, but you can see here that this has not prevented a lot of the oil companies from continuing to drill. These B arguments that the Senate Bill 541 would allow a strategy that would combat climate change with the inbuilt funding for these tech companies, but it's not passing right now because 23 other states have similar legislation to allow their companies to now have subsidized products in order to stop hydraulic fracking and just promote renewable energy, but that is not happening because these companies are being met with political backlash. The second argument is that economic investment is going to be low in the energy sector just within a couple of next years, which means that we're going to be seeing a rise in the economic bubble. The A argues that big oil only spent 1% of their green energy in 2018, according to Reuters, and this number is decreasing to over more and more. The B argues that according to Forbes, private investors are probably going to be hitting their peak level of investment into this green technology before the investment bubble starts to develop speculation. They will probably max out by 2021 or 2022, in which we would see a propensity for economic collapse by then. The latest argument is that first of all, we were able to brand fracking, which ensures a whole bunch of business confidence to continue. Specifically, the A argues that the renewable energy sources could actually increase their revenue by $210 billion over the next 5 years if they were able to access these companies that are currently being blocked by legislation, which means that we can ensure that business confidence is going to happen. But the B argument is that according to Bloomberg, this incentivizes the oil and gas companies to actually transition into widespread economic trajectory because now that they see that they cannot hydraulically fracture anymore, that probably pushes them into investing into better green energy. The second argument is this enables the legislation to pass. You can explicitly cross-apply the New Mexico study in the Senate bill over here that would allow new strategies to pass in 23 different states, and especially these are like the swing states and the Republican states that are ones that are most likely to backlash, which probably means that we're having a wider spread magnitude over companies in which are most likely to be using oil and fossil fuels right now. The impacts that first of all we are key to preventing we're contributing to the economy. The A argues that economic collapse is really bad because 1 year in poverty takes up to 7 years of your life, and the number one indicator of expanding jobs is the actual energy sector. So they would be the ones necessarily hiring more blue-collar workers and more individuals that need to be part of this energy sector. So an economic collapse would lead to poverty, especially for these marginalized individuals. But the B argument is that poverty is excluding that, or I think I already went over this. But the B argument is that economic unsustainability leads to things like resource wars. You can see, for example, that the United States is starting to rely on things like Saudi Arabia and Canada for more and more oil, which means that if we continue to rely on these types of things in the future, we are more likely to experience more resource wars. Anything else? Okay, we're good.
terms now. The first disadvantage from Arctic drilling. Uniqueness 1. Fracking moves with made in the U.S. and major oil producers because of how profitable it is. Forbes finds that fracturing saves Americans $180 billion annually on gasoline. In short, we really rely on it. Uniqueness 2 is that the Arctic right now is extremely profitable, especially in the vein of oil. There is an estimated like 88 million tons of oil underneath the Arctic right now, which is why we see a lot of American excavation, and especially Russian excavation, and China, Germany, and Finland all going for the Arctic right now. It's a very popular place to drill for oil. Uniqueness 3, the New York Times finds, as global demand for oil and natural gas increases, economic and political pressure to exploit the Arctic also increases. Drilling in the Arctic also leads to, and the argument here is that Shell granted exploratory permits to drill in the Arctic seas. Okay, so in a part of the Arctic Ocean, Shell was granted to drill there for the first time since 2012, which shows that American companies aren't increasingly interested in the Arctic. Then subsequent loosening of restrictions under Trump admin means that other countries will, or other countries will invest more heavily in that because of the fear of U.S. reprisal. What essentially happens is that the Arctic is so popular right now that if the restrictions loosen on this drilling, then the Trump administration will definitely want to go to the Arctic because so many other actors are currently going. The argument here is that as sea ice reduces due to global warming, Arctic becomes more open for exploration. So the first link is that banning fracking pushes companies for Arctic drilling for a cheaper alternative. Right now, we don't see a lot of fracking going on in the Arctic. We see more unconventional, slightly outdated methods of Arctic drilling. So if you just ban it in the if you just ban Arctic drilling, then these companies are just going to want to do it elsewhere where they can't be as heavily regulated and will probably want to do it illegally. So the link is that they ban fracking by doing that. The second link is that fracking produces oil and natural gas. So the argument here is that production demands are met because of this, but the argument here is that right now the Arctic loss would outweigh, especially on the environment, since the Arctic is key for the environment. The first internal link is on decreasing oil and natural gas costs, because A, the cost increases as demand increases. So if you just ban fracking, then that means the cost of this oil is going to go up excessively, which means that which means the demand increases, which means the cost would also have to increase, which means American consumers would have to be paying way more for their respective oil, since they would lose out on this $180 billion, but also if they go to a cheaper alternative, then the people here that prevents a green tech switch, because if you have to just continuously go to oil and natural gas, you're less incentivized to switch to green tech because you're trapped in a system where you come to rely on this gas. Yeah.
Yeah, if oil was more expensive, wouldn't the regular consumer just switch to renewables, which would become more cheaper?
No, because you tell us something right now, they can't make a green tech switch properly, and what we see is that they would just be trapped in the cycle of oil, it wouldn't actually be a green tech switch. So the second internal link is that oil exploration in the Arctic would go up immensely because of the fact that people would just want to start outsourcing there and start drilling there. So the first impact is on increasing climate change, and some point A here, is that oil exploration equals an increase in icebergs, because as more companies go to the Arctic, there's going to be an increase in icebergs, which means to break up the ice to get to that Arctic oil. The impact here is that this would cause ocean deepening of color, which would absorb significantly more heat because of the fact that you break up more white ice in the ocean, you create a much darker surface color, which means that the propensity for climate change goes up significantly. Since the melting of ice caps is already the largest contributor to climate change, only the negation controls the internal link to a worse climate change as well. Then the second internal link is that species die off. Cross apply the biodiversity impacts of climate change, but the neg obviously controls the internal link that way more. They're going to say that if oil costs go up, then people are just going to want to make this green tech switch, but use their own uniqueness to show you why a green tech switch wouldn't happen, which means they just get trapped in a cycle of perpetuation where they've come to rely on the oil for so long, and these companies have based their entire infrastructure around oil. They will not switch as they themselves tell you. Then the counter plan. Has the EPA plan set with 3 comprehensive mandates to regulate fracking? This is afterwards if you want. The first mandate is on regulating diesel fuel fracking to make companies comply with Class 2 permitting requirements for diesel fracking, so to not contaminate groundwater. So we regulate diesel fracking to make companies comply with Class 2 permit requirements for diesel fracking to not contaminate groundwater. What Class 2 requirements essentially do is that they make the shale not produce this diesel fuel right now, because what a lot of companies do is that they go behind use back and just use diesel fuel to frack with Class 2 regulations solved, because currently we only have Class 1 permit regulations. Then the second mandate here, or the second plank, I'll take it in. The second plank is on wastewater and stormwater regulations, mandating that runoff goes through safe treatment plants before reuse. We already see use of this in states like Wyoming. And then 3, pass the sub-mandate to instate the natural gas STAR program, under which companies have to thin their oil to emit significantly less toxins, because what happens is right now, the reason they produce so much in the air causes all these pollution problems because the oil is so thick that it has to be siphoned through many more systems, but by thinning the oil under the NT STAR program, which already sees solvency, we see advantages. The underview on this counterplan is on solvency. The New York Times finds that immoral diesel use in fracking is a large contributor of the majority of fracking problems. Little acres that Wyoming has Class 2 regulations, and they've actually seen a decrease in their emittance because of the decrease in diesel use. Then the subpoint here, the LA Times finds that wastewater refineries are uniquely good at refining wastewater, especially for fracking. We're arguing that we should be regulating fracking, not completely getting rid of the industry as a whole. What was your question?
Yeah, seeing that you've already admitted that diesel fracking happens
paper argument that was passed by the government to look good, saying, hey, don't frack and exploit diesel because that would be bad. But class 2 regulations actually give them legal incentives such as fines if they continue to allow this. That's why we see the solvency in Wyoming, the only place that has class 2 regulations, but not anywhere that uses class 1. So on their advantage about the environment, they say that the green tech switch doesn't happen, that we're not switching to green technology. What needs to be understood is that the CP is uniquely better at solving for this, because right now the CP solves back for the problems presented in the uniqueness 1 and 2. Because yes, I agree that there is a problem with increased methane use because of fracking, but to the point at which they can't emit as much due to the CP definitely solves for all the impacts of the environment, because we need regulations which have already been shown to work. We can't completely get rid of the entire industry. We need to regulate it, or else it'll just cause the collapse of that economic sector, or just further in other ways when they just go to the Arctic. Either way, it's a bad impact. Then on the links they talk about air pollution, but turning the disadvantage is definitely going to outweigh this, because there's going to be a much bigger increase in air pollution on the point at which you make fracking companies go to the oil and go to the Arctic, and already way over-exploited region. What we see is that if you just ban fracking here, then countries like these companies have no options but to just go outsource to the oil, where the market is already so thriving that there's going to be a big increase in air pollution, and the Arctic is uniquely key. Keep this in mind, because the Arctic is what siphons the channel of cold air that often goes to the Arctic. That's why we see the cold fronts in places like Chicago breaking, and you see a really bad climate change impacts in other countries, because when the Arctic suffers, that channel gets broken up. That channel of cold air actually spills over into other more equator-based countries, and significantly worse. So the Arctic should outweigh there, especially on air pollution. Then on earthquakes, they say that it's because you're injecting all this, but the wastewater is what actually loosens the travels. It's not just because you decrease the integrity of the rock, it's because you sow in so much wastewater afterwards that the ground becomes extremely soft and the plates can slide more easily under each other. But by making the wastewater go through refineries so it doesn't get instantly shoved back into the ground, which I can completely concede is a bad problem, you actually solve back for the problems of earthquakes better. Then the runoff, and that's the exact same thing, decreasing the runoff by putting it through safe refineries, not only turn this because it means more clean water going to people in a time where a lot of people do have polluted water because of conflict Michigan's bed, but it also solves back for the problems of the Africa does it in a significantly better and more comprehensive way. On biodiversity, only we control the internal link to biodiversity, and then when they talk about refugees, Arctic refugees are going to be way worse because Arctic people are already disadvantaged and they can't fit in with other societies because they definitely have their own way of life. So when you literally force Arctic people to leave their area because of all these problems, then you just make the quality of life significantly worse for them. The Arctic is unique in its that way. On the economy, first, turn the link, politicians are in favor of drilling, so they have an increased risk of burning in their world, because politicians actually push for drilling, which means if you get rid of it, they're just going to start going to the Arctic, because they want it to not going to be changing. There's no new legislation as a result of this, only if we control the internal links, their impacts, under who the CP solves for it. Right.
The order's going to be you off on top. And then please. I'm going to just actually counterplan it this time.
Did you see CP does that?
Yes. Is that right? These interpretations, the negative may not define a counterclaim with more than one plank. The negative may not define a counterclaim with more than one plank. The violation, or in the LOC, the violation of the defending counterclaim with 3 planks. The standard the first is going to be that of extra top impact. The argument here is that they're able to garner offense on 3 separate planks with a counterclaim is equivalent of having 3 different counterclaims, which means they have access to more offense. The second argument is it's unpredictable because we cannot predict how many planks they can add to this EPA policy and justify by saying it's still one policy, which means it's completely unpredictable and skews the MG's access to ground. The third argument is that they widely expand the depth of the debate, which is really bad because we say that depth is better than breadth, and they expand the breadth of the debate by talking about these 3 separate planks because breadth is already not unique to parliamentary debate because we get all these different topics. It means you have to default to depth. On the voter level, the first argument is that this is all prior issue. You have to know the rules before you play the game. The second argument is that fairness comes before all else because without fairness, debate would collapse. The third argument is that that education, we don't have access to education in this round. If we can't access these multiple different planks of the plants, we're only generating at best mediocre off of all these different planks, which means we're never actually going to be getting any education from the round. The fourth argument is that you have to drop the beta to set community norms, and the fifth argument is no RPIs because it disincentivizes things running theory against abuse. The sixth argument is convenient interpretations because reasonability is arbitrary leads to judgment dimension. On to case. On the first advantage, extending an entirety of the nucleus story about the transition is not happening right now. This means our counterpoint is uniquely unable to solve things like the environment because we articulate that the only way we are able to solve the global warming is by forcing a shift towards solar and wind, and they are unable to do that because they still continue fracking, even if it is regulated and is not renewable energy, because natural gas is not renewable, which means you're never going to be able to solve global warming. On the link level, they make the argument that the counterpoint solves, but argument, just cross my argument about why the counterpoint can't solve. You can next they make this turn about how we increase air pollution. The first argument is that outsourcing to oil in the Arctic is literally the status quo. They make arguments themselves about why Trump is already loosening restrictions on Arctic drilling and how countries like Russia and Finland are already going in, which means the Arctic is completely non-unique. But the second argument here is that the Arctic is not unique. We've provided you specific analysis on the uniqueness level about why methane specifically being released by fracking is the #1 reason why we have global warming now, because methane is 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide, which means even if oil drilling happens in the Arctic, methane is always going to be outweighed. Next, they make this argument about how wastewater are actually caused by softening of the ground. The first argument here, or softening the ground, which causes earthquakes. So the first argument here is that no, we articulate that pressurizing the rocks and breaking them apart is the reason why earthquakes happen. You can gut check this as a reasonable argument. But the second argument here is that you're unable to solve wastewater because companies have historically gone past regulation in the first place. So the only way to have a better probability of solving is by banning altogether. Next, they make this argument about how runoff will be solved by safer refineries. The first argument here is that there's absolutely no incentive for companies to comply because they can just pay the fines. But the second argument here is that U.S. is also really bad at detecting water problems in the first place. You can look towards countries or states in the middle of the United States where they have vastly high amounts of chemicals and I forgot the name, we learned about this in age. High amounts of chemicals and in their water that has been gone untreated for several years, which means that the EPA is probably insufficient to track back. Which means you can extend all of our link arguments about how banning fracking is the only way we're actually able to reduce these risks to the environment and the health. On the impact level, they make arguments about how Arctic refugees are even worse, but we would make the argument that first of all, this only depends on their singular link about Arctic drilling, and we've already answered this pretty much. And secondarily, we make the argument that climate refugees writ large are always going to outweigh on the issue of magnitude because sea level rise overall, because of greenhouse gases, is always going to cause more refugees than Arctic refugees, so you can extend the rest of our impacts. On the econ, extend the entirety of your uniqueness story about how the economy is going to be moving towards the bubble in terms of the energy sector because people are trying to put money into green energy, but the government is preventing that money from going anywhere, which indicates that their counterplan is literally unable to solve because only banning hydraulic fracking and forcing a transition is able to solve. On the link up, they make a turn about how we increase drilling because of politicians. The first argument is that if these politicians are so bad, they would have ordered drilling in the first place. There's no need for them to ban fracking first, right? But the second response here is that we actually change the political mindset. If you look towards Shannon's analysis that talks about the Senate bills to combat funding, and 23 other states who are willing to subsidize renewables. I mean, the politicians are willing to do that. It's just the economics that needs to change, which means the plan is a necessary prerequisite, and their timeline is simply insufficient because it still relies on fracturing. Next, actually, I think that's the only argument they made on there. You can extend the rest of our links about how we're key to business confidence and we're key to passing positive legislation. This needs to be solved on a structural level because legislation outlines how all of green energy policy happens for the rest of the future, which is an indication for how only we are able to solve the longest time frame. Extend our impact about econ plus is probably going to be a tiebreaker because they only go for econ on this side. Okay, on the counterpoint. The first argument is going to be harm to both. Our argument here is that their abusive use of the counterpoint justifies abusive permutation because that's the only way we can get any sort of offense. But even if you don't buy that, there are a couple of disadvantages to the counterpoint. The first argument here is that regulations will never solve because of things like loopholes and companies are very rich and they will just pay the fine. So point A is that they say we're already using this in Wyoming, but you can cross by Shannon's analysis that says a lot of these states in the region of Wyoming are still seeing massive levels of methane in their water, which is an indication that these loopholes are fundamentally non-solvent. But the second response here is that thinning oil only makes it easier to be dispersed and easier to escape detection. They say that a thick oil is really bad, but we would argue that thinning oil is also really bad because that means it's more easily able to run off into the water and cause things like cultural eutrophication. Addition, that also makes it easier to escape detection. We would say that no oil is better than thinning oil. The third response here is that they're simply unable to solve for things like pressurizing rock and methane because the way fracking functions, that you have to put high pressure liquid into rocks, which means you inevitably lead to earthquakes. And additionally, putting this high pressure liquid in the rocks is what releases methane in the first place, which means you only exacerbate the issue. The fourth argument here is that you uniquely mask the issue by putting all these mandates in the first place, which is probably going to be a unique reason for why we're never able to solve global warming. On the disadvantage. Yeah.
What's the firm check? What does that world look like when you do the firm?
It's not even a question what the world looks like. It's just like defense against the counterplan that says we should be able to do both if you run the abuse counterplan. Okay, on the dissent. Okay. On the uniqueness level, we talk about how fracking makes the United States richer. The first argument is that fracking is largely unsustainable anyway. You can look towards the fact that fracking companies are not generating enough cash from their operations to cover the expenses. They have a negative cash flow of $9 billion per quarter. It's an indication that even if it makes the United States richer, this means that there's still a high incentive to turn towards green energy alternatives instead because they're more sustainable. Next, they make the argument about how the Arctic is profitable. The first argument is that this is non-unique because if the Arctic is profitable, we will go there anyway, which means it's not a question of the Arctic. But the second argument here is that we solve because we uniquely facilitate a transition to green energy, which is necessarily going to be cheaper. They drop Shannon's argument about how green energy is comparatively cheaper, which means companies that want to make money will always go there when fracking is not an option. The third argument they make is about how global demand goes towards the Arctic. Green energy is able to solve this initially loose regulation, but in the status quo, and we change that by changing the politics and having legislation that checks for this. And yeah, we're able to solve things like ice by solving global warming. Now this is time. On the link level, they talk about how we're pushing Arctic drilling. The first argument here is that we're not going to be pushing fossil Arctic drilling because fossil fuels are dying anyway, which means they have to go towards green energy. The warrant for this is that the Institute for Energy, Economy, and Financial Analysis said that oil and gas are weaker than it has been in decades because of sluggish growth. It's an indication that the only reason it's being propped up right now is because we have fracking companies that are using their money to prop up things like oil and gas, which means banning it is a necessary prerequisite to shift to green energy. Next, they make an argument about oil and gas and demand and Arctic outwaves. I'm pretty sure I've already answered these arguments. You can cross-apply the case here. On the internal links, they talk about a decrease in cost. Our argument is that cost increase is good because it disincentivizes consumers from using oil and gas. But secondarily, our argument is that this incentivizes an investment into green energy, which actually decreases costs as a whole. You can look towards the fact that fracking is really expensive for marginalized communities. For example, the wells and drills, companies with communities with wells and drills do worse than others in terms of income and unemployment. It actually costs like $670 billion in secondary mortgage debt risk because of the fact that these wells are right next to the homes, which is uniquely bad. Next, they talk about how this prevents a shift, but we would articulate that it's a necessary prerequisite to having a shift. That's the entirety of the current story that goes conceded. Next, they make this argument about how oil will increase in the Arctic, but our argument is that this is totally non-unique to the point where Russia is not controlled by the United States, and Russia will always go in anyway. So just a question of the U.S. can solve writ large for greenhouse gases, and secondarily, we disincentivize going to oil in the Arctic anyway because the fracking companies are the same companies that do the oil and gas drilling. So they get rid of their money there. They can't do their oil drilling in the Arctic. On the impact level, they talk about climate change refugees. Argument that climate change becomes inevitable in a world in which fracking still exists because methane will still exist. And secondarily, you should always prefer our analysis of greenhouse gases because it's more specific than their Arctic analysis. Go back.
Let's go with the T. Okay. And then I think we're going to go same order as everyone else. We're going to go case, CP, decide. Oh. Our case. Yeah. Oh. We meet the interpretation because it is one plan that's very popular with 3 steps to it, right? We're talking about passing the EPA plan. A lot of people have been talking about passing this. The thing is that it has different parts of the plan. It doesn't make it 3 different plans. It makes it just one plan with different parts to it because you can't pass the full plan without having all the different sections to it. It's the difference between planks and mandates. So on we violation, we don't violate. So on ground, they haven't articulated any ground laws. I'd like to take a contention, literally rip up their sheet, then maybe you could vote for it. But at the point at which they haven't shown you any ground laws, you can't be voting on ground. On predictability, actually prefer the standard of Googleability because the first thing when you look up, what does it say? The first thing when you look up regulations on fracking or hydraulic fracturing, whatever, that you see is this EPA plan. It's a super, super popular plan. It's if you want to, we have it in our practices. Probably GSU, we should be going for what's actually Googleable, what you can actually find, right? Okay, then when they talk about breadth over depth, okay, we can have both, with depth and breadth, both of them are good. It's important to cover breadth as well because we want to understand the full picture of the issue. It's actually really, really bad to be super closed-minded and have tunnel vision kind of what they're advocating for, and only focus on one option and just completely banning it or doing nothing at all. And instead, let's actually focus on the real-world plans that are being proposed by the EPA, which is a plan that kind of covers a lot of different things in order to make a most effective solution to kind of create the best world, because that's probably what we should be advocating for. On fairness, this isn't fair. They can respond to one plan and just the different parts of the plan. I mean, they clearly had a fine time putting response on the flow. I don't know why it's unfair to them. They didn't seem to struggle at all. They're great debaters. On education, we have the out-of-ground impact. There's more education when we're talking about one of the most popular plans going on, considering hydraulic fracturing. When we're talking about this plan, because it's a really popular plan, the EPA is trying to pass it, and it's actually seen a lot of success in Wyoming, as Jackson told you about, when you're implementing different parts of this plan in different areas. So you have better education when you're first of all talking about a more comprehensive solution, but second of all talking about what's going on in the real world. So if you really want to advocate for education, I'd say you should probably be voting negative. On the first advantage about green energy. Okay, they say that we never solve global warming. Okay, as an overview to this entire episode, something really, really important to keep in mind. You need to prefer saving the Arctic before you consider any of their global warming arguments about methane and carbon, and here's why. The main thing that we have right now that's going to help us prevent global warming from getting so much worse is that on the Arctic there's an ice sheet covering the entire thing. What this is able to do is make sure that we're not having all of this sunlight coming in and then bouncing off. So the more that we melt this ice sheet, the more it's really, really bad for global warming and climate change. The more what Jackson told you about how the ocean's getting darker, which they conceded, what happens is that sunlight is absorbed into the ocean, therefore we're seeing more warming being absorbed onto our planet, which is really, really bad. Definitely bad. Okay, when they talk about, they tell you fracturing's bad, we explain that we can't get rid of it, the CP solves better because we're reducing pollution. They say we're still fracking, that's so bad. We cannot fully stop fracking. At the point at which it's completely unfeasible to explain that the fact that $180 billion is saved every single year for American consumers on gasoline prices, it is not feasible to just completely stop fracking without doing anything when we know that companies are going to turn to the Arctic. We know that companies are going to do this. They haven't really explained to you a full picture of why they're not going to turn to the Arctic. Therefore, we know that that's exactly what's going to happen. On the lake level, Jackson threw a turn on here explained how we're preventing an Arctic shift, which is actually much important. They said methane's more important. Remember that we need this Arctic ice sheet that's starting to melt. The more that boats like icebergers, which they can see there's going to be an increase in icebergers, they're basically these massive boats that go and break the ice sheets that's literally necessary for making sure that our planet is not completely destroyed by global warming. The more these boats come in, which they agree is going to happen, the more the ice sheet is destroyed, the more we have a less and less chance of survival and a higher chance of that IPCC report saying that the entire world is going to turn really, really bad really soon, which is really true, is going to be even more accurate, even more worse. We need to prevent this ice sheet over everything. Keep that in mind for this round. Okay, on earthquakes, Jackson explained how to use wastewater. They say it's pressuring rocks. It's made 100 times worse because of this water, because of the way that the water works. What we do is we clean this water and reuse this water so we can see people who don't have access to clean water right now finally getting that access, and then we're not just wasting runoff water and making it worse. They explain how companies are going to go past regulations to kind of do whatever, but they haven't shown you specifically with this regulation how that's happened. Jackson explained to you how we're already seeing in the real world this specific regulation happening and people are not going past it. It's actually being really, really effective. Jackson put a turn on runoff saying that we're going to decrease runoff by refining it, which means more safe water for more people. They say there's no solvency because companies are just going to pay the fines and not actually do anything. Once again, we're already seeing success with this. It's more important that we're having this risk of solvency to try and make sure that we're actually giving people clean water and clean all this water. We explain that we solve better, but they say EPA is an insufficient actor. The plan is already working. This is just the EPA's plan that's really, really popular. We're not saying EPA is the only one enforcing it. The plan is already working. Different parts of the plan have been implemented in different states, and it's already seeing being really, really efficient. They haven't tried to show you how this plan's been implemented and it's not been efficient at the point at which they can't show you how the EPA's been efficient in trying to combat or fix fracturing in this in any way. There's no way you can go for them. They can see that we control the internal link to biodiversity. We can live right now in biodiversity. On Arctic refugees, they try and tell you that magnitude of climate refugees because of sea level. Remember, the Arctic is key for Arctic over everything. On the advantage number 2 about the economy, Jackson was trying to explain how politicians clearly want oil, therefore there's an increase in the probability of our Arctic descent being triggered. They basically just said the only thing that solves is banning oil. This is a really, really important turn, and they completely underworked this. They really, really mishandled it. Here's what's happening. They're telling you right now that in the status quo, politicians are making a sufficient effort to move to green energy instead of favoring policies that continue to drill oil. That is direct solvency for why, if you ban fracking, they're immediately going to turn around and go to the oil. Therefore, they're telling you that we have a high probability of triggering the discount about the Arctic, which we tell you is key to checking back for global warming. If you literally want to save our planet, you should negate. Okay, then Jackson tells you how there's no new legislation. There's no reason to switch. Basically, there's no direct reason to switch to green technology. They talk about changing the mindset of politicians and the economy needs to change. We can just change the economy, but they don't explain to you how it's going to be possible to have that $180 billion in decreased gas prices that every single American consumer relies on suddenly magically disappear. That doesn't make any sense. On the CP, they talk about an abusive perm, and frankly, it doesn't make any sense. Don't buy this perm. There's no perm text. They're not going to do it. Don't buy this. Okay. Okay. On the CP, they said that if oil is thinner, it's easier to run off more, but that's not true. That's the reason why this plan is so good. It's because it's paired with the second prong, which is how the wastewater is reused and cleaned, so they're not running off together. It's not that you can't detect oil. I don't know what they're talking about. If oil's thin, is it going to become invisible and everyone's going to forget where it went? Don't buy that. They're just kind of shouting into the void. It doesn't make any sense. It's not really how it works. On solvency, we talk about regulations in Wyoming. They're we're still seeing lots of emissions in Wyoming. Sure, this is relatively new policy. It takes a little bit to implement, but don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. We're still seeing emissions going down. That's important. Don't ignore that. We have the only risk to solvency for this. Then they say that regulations never solve because companies just pay fines. First of all, they have no direct warrants. And second, we've already seen success. Once again, to the point at which they can't show how these companies under this plan have been able to just avoid avoid everything by paying fines, and they can't refute the fact that we've actually seen this plan be effective, I see literally no reason to vote for them. On the disadvantage about the Arctic, remember the Arctic is the key. We can win this round in the Arctic alone. They tell you how fracking is unsustainable, but people still rely on that. Keep in mind that $180 billion. Keep in mind that fracking is what's led the U.S. to be a leader when it comes to oil and gas. Then they say that people have a high incentive to switch to green technology. Okay, if you buy people already have a high incentive to switch to green technology, then people will switch in either world. It's non-unique. So why not just regulate fracking so the people who still do it in a much safer way, and then everyone else also switches to green technology? They haven't shown you why it doesn't exist in their world. On Arctic proliferation, they say it's non-unique. Or the Arctic's profitable, they say it's not unique, yeah?
If a green tech switch is going to happen, why didn't it happen before fracking became so huge?
If a green tech switch is going to happen, why didn't it happen before fracking became so huge? They tell you that green technology is cheaper, okay, but it's an expensive switch. It might be cheaper in the long run, but initially it's expensive. Then they tell you that it's good to disincentivize the use of gas and people should use alternative energies. Turn this actually marginalizes communities who can't afford expensive alternatives. So when they talk about marginalized communities, cross-apply this term because a lot of people can't afford those alternatives. And pref greenhouse, no. Pref the ice sheet. Pref Arctic. Go next.
Okay, just 2 voters. The debate has come down to 2 central questions. What happens after the plan passes and who makes the quality of life for everyone in the world better? You'll see that the answer to all those questions is definitely going to side with the negation. Let's go to the first question. What happens after the plan passes? They're dropping a majority of the links on the Arctic. They specifically dropped the second link, which says that fracking produces this natural oil and gas, which means that the production, the demands for production currently being met, will no longer be met, which means that more people are going to have to go to the Arctic to fulfill those demands. Because they never respond to the fact that the demand will exist no matter what. In any world, they can see the fact that politicians are currently pro-oil. They can see the fact that companies need to fill these gaps. They can see the fact that companies do not have the physical infrastructure to make this green tech switch, and they never tell you why the investment would come, especially when it wasn't happening before the fracking age. That means that the only viable option, as we've already seen in the status quo, is going to be an Arctic switch. And their main response to this comes with the fact that it's pretty non-unique because Russia already does it, and the squirrel already does it. But on the point at which it's not a brink impact, it's definitely scalar, you should be voting with the negation because we have significantly less Arctic drilling in our world. Because there's currently a huge ice sheet which blocks a lot of American drilling. They've sown several small passageways into the Arctic, but on the point at which they need icebreakers to actually fulfill the demands of these companies, this $180 billion demand, they don't have no choice but to go to the Arctic. Let's talk about the terminalized impacts of going to the Arctic, because we really need to get clear on the terminalization of what happens post-fiat. We need to see that when the Arctic actually gets overexploited, we see an influx of Arctic refugees who they concede are not prepared to handle Western or even Eastern ways of life because they live completely in a cultural bubble where they will be completely unsound going to other places. We should prefer these these structural impacts over these long-term big picture magnitude impacts because these structural impacts are what affect you and I every single day, and that's what we need to prioritize in this debate. So those refugees are going to be a huge argument on this case. And then secondly, we see that in the Arctic, what happens right now is that if you do want to vote for the big picture magnitude impacts, that just gets way worse because of the ocean deepening. And they can see that only we control the link to ocean deepening. The Arctic argument is going to outweigh. We can use the Arctic to outweigh literally everything they've said because it's a significantly higher probability impact on strength of link due to all the links they concede. And second of all, it has way higher magnitude because of the fact that it has, it's more probable, which means the magnitude is more likely to actually hit. And then secondly, we can just do some basic magnitude weighing, saying that if the Arctic actually deepens in this literally crucial region because of this cold air strait, which goes up to the Arctic, actually starts to break. That's when we see things like 100 people dying in Chicago because the air got so cold because the Arctic was broken up. Don't perpetuate this problem because it causes structural impacts that decrease propensity for higher quality of life. Then let's go to that second question, right? Who actually improves the quality of life for all people? And we'll see that it's definitely, even if you don't want to talk about the Arctic, if you think that's BS, we can still win on the fact that the CP would solve that for the impacts of higher quality of life. Now, the majority of their CP responses come from the fact that it won't solve, but on the point at which we do see small-scale solvency in Wyoming, at least to some degree, the scalar impacts definitely side with the negation because right now, in the world of regulations, we're seeing less emissions. And that is really key because they just try to glaze over this, saying, oh, the Type 1 regulations won't really solve, but never explicate or warrant why they won't solve. We make the argument that they absolutely do solve, as they already have been solving, especially in small-scale places like Wyoming. they get into this whole political blockade, saying that, like, politicians will not opt for this, but politicians are pro-oil. In any world, they're going to opt for the best oil. So whose world provides them a better incentive? One where fracking exists with regulations, where they can't do everything they want to, or one where there's no alternative and they have no choice but to go to the Arctic because they can see that a green tech switch is expensive. It's not happening right now. It didn't happen before the age of fracking. It definitely won't happen afterwards. Fracking is very recent, and so they did have the technology at the time to switch. They just didn't. Then, like, the brief theory arguments extend the no articulated grounds issue. That's the number one sentence issue you should be prepping, because, like, proven abuse, should always be weighed above everything else, especially in the theory debate. They have no articulated ground laws. They're doing just fine. This is not unfair. This is real-world policy education. If you want to look for real-world education and a plan which literally makes equality plans for everyone's better and doesn't completely exploit the Arctic, you should go back.
They've read no counter-interpretation when on the voter level we articulate what counter-interpretation needs to be evaluated over reasonability. That probably means that that there is no independent office that you can vote for them over here. Their needs literally don't apply. But first of all, that they said this is one plan, but they admitted that there are 3 planks under it, which means that they invite into the interpretation that there is more than one plank, which means that magnifies our first standard on extra-topicality. They're deriving often from extra parts of the plan, which probably means that their only office on this sheet is about increasing education. We can go for independently for the fairness debate, because without fairness debate will collapse, and this is a bad model of debate. Anyways, which probably means you can vote for us there independently. There's no offense on our voter level, which means it's a very easy place to vote for affirmative. Even if you don't buy that, let's go to case. The overview on the adverse advantage is that all of the responses to the adverse advantage are cross applications of the disadvantage and disadvantage one, which means that there is no risk of the dissad, and their counterclaim doesn't solve if we use a try or die for the affirmative. They are losing specifically on time break. Let's articulate why. First of all, you can see here that they are losing the debate that right now fracking is really, really bad and it is unstable, which probably means that the only thing that's preventing transition is immediate banning of hydraulic fracturing, which means that their counterclaim can never resolve for the uniqueness debate. But second of all, you can see that all of their Arctic turns don't apply over here. First of all, they've conceded that Russia will go into the Arctic no matter what, but companies will not go to the Arctic because they will now, with an immediate transition, if you win on time frame, that renewable energy is going to be cheaper, which means it's not the politicians that are going to the Arctic, it's the companies, the oil drilling companies that go to the Arctic, which means that all of their arguments about politicians do not apply, which means that they cannot turn this advantage. But second of all, Russia will go into the Arctic anyways. Russia doesn't depend on the United States in order to go put their 42 icebreakers out and start drilling in the Arctic, which means that all of their turns are non-unique. The only team that is solving for the environment is right now. They've conceded that transition to green energy is not happening fast enough, which means that if the counterclaim is prolonging all of the impacts of how methane levels are literally the #1 indicator for why climate change is happening, that means you have to go for the affirmative. Second of all, they've conceded we're outweighing in terms of we are solving better than the counterclaim for. Let's do the impact analysis now. First of all, our impacts are more quantifiable and more probable. They've given you no analysis for why there's specific articulation about Wyoming can solve for the entirety of the nation. But we have given you specific analysis on 1A link that the emissions can be decreasing by up to 1 to 3 million cars, and that probably is sufficient enough to resolve for the amount of the methane that is going into the area. They've never articulated why their specific hydraulic fracturing doesn't link it to methane, which means that methane is still being produced in the world of their counterland.
All the methane dealing, the fact that we don't solve for methane, don't make the argument that it is air pollution, first of all.
I'm pretty sure
I definitely made this argument in the MG. I said specifically you're not able to solve for methane because you're still fracturing. The cost of fracturing of is methane. And I said methane is the more reason why we just gas are going to do it.
Okay, sounds good. They cannot solve specifically for emission, but second of all, they can see that they are not able to solve for a faster time frame if it is true, right? Because if methane is the #1 indicator of global climate change, that means that the counterclaim solves longer term. They do not meet our 2025, and emissions are the internal link to Arctic ice melt, which means that our advantage is the internal link to resolving for the Arctic ice melting. Because the whole reason that the ice is melting right now is because of the increasing global warming, making confidence here is that of politicians. We've already articulated that politicians don't apply to this debate. The politicians are not literally allowing the companies to pass their own legislature, which means that the companies wanting to transition, they will transition. They're not going to go into the Arctic. Alright, the first, onto their counterplan. Their counterplan cannot solve for emissions. You can extend sharing the disadvantages about how they're going to be relinking to structural violence impacts. You cannot work with them on structural violence impacts at the point where they conceded that fracturing causes earthquakes, which means that earthquakes are literally happening at the point where a majority of these people of color are living anyways, which means that these are the first people to be impacted, and you're causing more and more coastal refugees, but which means you relink it to your structural impacts. And second of all, there are no warrants specifically as to why emissions will go down. If their warrant in Wyoming is true, that probably that it is already thumped by our advantage because it says the emissions are not going down fast enough, and their counterplan is not solving in the status quo, which means it's a triad of the affirmative. Onto their disadvantage. Over to the disadvantage that is literally non-unique, and they're losing on time. First of all, let's get to the framing questions. First of all, that Russia will go into the Arctic no matter what. It doesn't depend on the United States. But second of all, there's no link because politicians are not going to go in. Companies will, but we already articulated that companies will not do that because they will be more incentivized to transition into green energy because it is going to be comparatively cheaper than to relocate all the way into the Arctic, which means that we're able to solve on just logic. But the third argument is that you're saying that companies are not going to be don't have the transition capability. First of all, this is just defense, but second of all, this is thumped by our uniqueness. Companies have been actively proposing legislation in order to transition into renewable energy, which means that the United States government is still subsidizing oil